The Indian wind power specialist Mytrah has just released its full year figures, and it's showing a rapid increase in its performance. Sharp increase in underlying earnings for the full year, EBITDA at $65.39 million US dollars, and the underlying profit before tax, that was up 10% at $11.1 million. So let's talk now to Bob Smith, Executive Vice President of Mytrah, to find out why such a good performance. Why, Bob?
So I think this is a great demonstration of what we've built inside Mytrah over the last 4 years. We started in 2010. We listed in London with no assets, no people, and no cash. We raised the money that we needed. We raised $80 million at that point. And with that, we've now built a business which is operating 543 megawatts of wind in India, and you can see the financials from this year showing that that's generated $65 million of EBITDA. So for us, this is the culmination of 4 years of very hard work, which has led us to the point where we are one of the leading wind power providers in India.
So this is really, I suppose, a proof of the concept, proof of your business model can actually work.
That's exactly right. We've taken a number of tough bets in creating our business. One of the things that we've done is we diversified the business across multiple states in India. We didn't do that because it was easy. We did it because it was hard and because it led us to a place where we've spread the risk across multiple states, but we've also spread the financial return because each of those states has their own regime, they have their own regulatory environment, they have their own wind regime, and when you put all of that together across of India, then you get a much smoother cash flow and it delivers business performance like you can see in the results.
But if you look at the places where you're putting these wind turbines, they are by definition in remote parts of the countryside, probably quite high up, away from centres of population. And that's great because you get the wind, but you've also got to connect that into the grid so that the power can be used in different places where you've got the population.
That's exactly right. And one of the key things about our business model is that we are a fully integrated player. So when we look at a wind site, we go from the very start, where we go and we look at the site itself, we establish what the wind patterns are on the site, and we also establish what the situation is with regard to connection to the grid. Sometimes you can connect immediately, sometimes it takes a while before the grid is ready for you to connect. And we've designed our pipeline so that we've got a range of projects available to us that we can build out, and then we choose from that pipeline the individual projects that we're going to build next, based on the fact that the wind is what we expect, and based on the fact that they can connect to the grid when we need it. So we always have to build a grid connection to connect to the national grid, but we don't go ahead and construct a project or select it before we know that the grid is able to take that connection when we're ready. And that's because we've got our own in-house team that understands the Indian grid as well as anybody in the world.
So you're doing what I think many alternative energy companies in the UK, for example, would rather envy, that you're managing to get growth, to get a decent return on your investment, and do it all without any kind of subsidy. But you know, and to do it because you're funding it yourself. But are you funding it at a competitive rate?
Yes, and this is a very important difference between the Indian market and the European context. In India, the market is fundamentally short of power. And so every megawatt that we construct is providing new power into a market which is demanding it as fast as we can build it. That's very different from Europe. In Europe, you're replacing existing power with wind. So the first thing is we're providing a product into a market which is demanding that product. The second thing is we're producing that product, we're producing the electricity from the wind farms at a cost which is competitive with coal-fired power. And coal-fired power is the traditional alternative in India. So today, we're producing wind faster than coal at the same price as coal, and we're producing it into a market which is fundamentally short of power. So we're providing a product that the market really needs. And that's very different from Europe. And Europe has to subsidize its renewable energy because the market doesn't need that electricity. What it's doing is replacing existing electricity with cleaner electricity. That needs a subsidy. In India, we don't need a subsidy because we're producing a product that people want at a price they can pay.
All right, so what about future expansion plans? Where else do you go? How much more capacity can you generate in the Indian market? And are you perhaps looking at some of the European markets, other markets, other geographies, where your model might work in a different environment?
Certainly, we have built a pipeline, as I said earlier, of 3,500 megawatts of potential projects. That's enough to build our business 7 times over in India today. And we're selecting from that pipeline as the projects come forward based on, as I said, the wind regime and the grid connection availability. Right now we have 300 megawatts of that in construction. About 200 will be on by this time next year. And we'll continue to build out at that rate. In order to do that, of course, we need to raise the finance to feed that pipeline. And we've announced in the results here that we've raised $130 million of financing over the last year, which is going to help us to build out that future pipeline. So we've got the pipeline for the growth, we've got the capability for the growth, which we've shown through what we've delivered here, and we have the finance required in order to deliver it.
All right, Bob Smith from Mytrah Energy, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.